The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastworks, 500,000 square feet dedicated to artists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits where community happens. Learn more at eastworks.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Right Angles, a Straw Dog Writers Guild conference will be held on October 18th at Greenfield Community College.
The Right Angles Conference is for writers by writers and promises an inspiring day of learning, connection, and growth for writers at all levels. The Straw Dog Writers Guild, a nonprofit volunteer organization, is dedicated to supporting the writing community by fostering engagement and connection among writers. Their mission is to promote individual growth, community outreach, and enrichment through the transformative power of writing.
This year, the Right Angles Conference is focusing on a commitment to writing that illuminates the complexities of our world, creates dialogue, incites change, and heals wounds. The theme is Through the Thicket of Thorns, Stories Grow, highlighting the power of written word in difficult times.
Oh, wow, we have lots of thorns right now to write through. And with us to talk about the upcoming conference are Morgan Sheehan, who wears many hats at Straw Dog Writers Guild, and one of the workshop presenters for the conference, Michael Favala Goldman.
Morgan Sheehan is a writer, teacher, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner.
Yes. I would like to spend the whole time talking about that, but we won't.
No, we're here to talk about the conference. You can talk about jiu-jitsu later.
Fine.
She received her BFA from Tisch at NYU and MFA from the Writers Workshop at the University of Iowa. She's a published poet and produced playwright and is currently working on a young adult novel and dealing with her flock of Pekin ducks. You have Pekin ducks?
And geese.
And geese.
Yeah.
You were the second person recently that we've talked to that's had geese. I have questions, but we're going to talk about the conference.
And raising Peking ducks sounds delicious. Michael Favela Goldman, award-winning poet, jazz clarinetist, and translator of Danish literature. We have Danishes out there for you to try as well if you'd like to translate them with mastication. Michael's 9 books of original poetry include Small Sovereign and What Minimal Joy, which took first place at the 2022 Los Angeles Book Festival. Among his 17 translated books is Dependency by Tove Ditlevsen. Am I saying that right?
Nope.
Say it.
Ditlevsen.
Ditlevsen. How is it?
Tove
Tova
Ditlevsen.
Oh, see? We could learn Danish here, too.
It's the language that I have the most trouble with in Duolingo.
It doesn't sound the way it looks.
Yeah. At any rate, it made the New York Times Best Books of the Century as book 3 of the Copenhagen trilogy. Hopefully I said that correctly. Thank you for joining us here, Straw Dog Writers Guild folks. This is an interesting time for writers, and it's an interesting time for this conference. But how long have you been involved with Straw Dog Writers Guild? Morgan?
Like a second.
Uh-huh.
So I've been a member for just a couple of years, but my mom was actually one of the founders of Straw Dog Writers Guild.
Oh, cool.
And it's 15 years old this year. And the conference, though, was started in 1987, so that's a little older.
Yeah. Ooh. Who is your mom?
Jacqueline Sheehan.
Oh, yeah. I believe I've met your mom.
She's everywhere. She's wonderful.
Who would win in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Michael, tell us about your relationship to Straw Dog Writers Guild.
When I was transitioning from being a full-time remodeling carpenter to being a writer, I saw an ad for a Straw Dog reading at Smith College. I was really new to the writing community in every way, shape, and form, but I went, and not only did I love the quality of the writers that were presenting, the mood in the room was just so warm and welcoming, and I was like, this is the place to be. And I went up to one of the organizers afterwards. This is about 12 years ago. So I went up to one of the organizers and I said, can I get involved with this somehow? And she was like, come to our next program meeting. And so I joined the program committee. And I've been actually running the program. I mean, at the time, I had really no contacts. I mean, it was a long way to go. But since then, I've been running the program committee for like the last 7 years.
I can't help but notice that it seems like the conference predates the guild.
Yeah, by quite a bit.
Was the conference always called the Straw Dog Writers Conference before the guild existed, or what was it called?
No, it was Right Angles Conference.
Oh, Right Angles, yeah, right.
Yep. And then, again, so it had been going on for over 30 years. But it stopped during the pandemic, like so many things did. And it was 3 years ago that Straw Dog Writers Guild started to do some information gathering to see if they wanted to bring it back, to see if people wanted it. So they formed all these listening committees all over the 4 counties. And then last year was the first year that it came back after the pandemic, and the first year of Straw Dog Writers Guild running it. And here we are in the second year.
If your mom, Morgan, was one of the founders of it, and you've only been in it for 2 years, what took you so long?
I mean, I wasn't here.
Where were you?
I went to school.
Yeah.
I was in the Peace Corps in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia.
Wow.
We moved to China, went to school again, and then I came back.
Were you always a writer throughout all of this?
Yeah, I went to school for playwriting, actually.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of the other Straw Dog Writers Guild members that people may have read their books from in the area. We were really lucky to have a lot of very interesting, fantastic writers who live in the 4 counties of Western Mass.
And we've had some of the Straw Dog Members Guild on the show before.
Yeah, we had
for sure.
What was it? It was a wine tasting and book event over the summer.
There was that.
That's where my mom was. I guess she's everywhere.
It's true.
Yeah. Other writers that are part of it that people might know?
Yes. So right now, particularly active is Ed Orchesky. And he has published his second book. This one is Becoming Darlene. So he's been at a lot of libraries in the area. And he's a historian, author, and he's an advocate for people who were institutionalized in some of our larger mental institutions in the area that are now closed. So Becoming Darlene is one of those stories. And the woman it's based on will often come to some of these programs with him. And he's pretty inspirational. Andrea Hairston was a member for quite a long time. She came to our annual members meeting, members celebration last Monday, and she's rejoining. She's also part of the conference. She's going to be part of the Sci-Fi Writing the Future panel.
Fun.
Yeah, that's my wheelhouse.
One of the other panels that's interesting about this particular Right Angles conference, which is happening at GCC on October 18th, has to do with AI. Can you tell us who and what will be talking about AI in response to how writers write?
So that's Sasha Aronson. And we had such a big discussion about this in the group because, as you can imagine, a number of the writers are pretty anti-AI. Mm-hmm. You know, it sort of gobbled up their books. They felt sort of betrayed by it, that they were taken advantage of by the AI training programs. But Sasha comes at it from a really positive viewpoint, how writers can ethically use AI in their work. And some of it's just an introduction to what AI does, what we want it to do, and also, importantly, what we don't want it to do as authors.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good reminder that, like, if you've ever used, like, a name or, like, a character generator, that's AI, too. Like, you're already using it. Michael Favela Goldman, not to go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation, but I feel somehow, knowing what I do about Danish carpentry and that you translate poetry, that this seemed like a normal trajectory. And you are going to be running a workshop on poetry at this particular conference. What appealed about poetry and specifically Danish literature that you wanted to translate, and what from it can you impart to other folks?
For me, engaging writing is all about emotion. When we're engaged in our heart about a character, about a story, even just a couple lines can do it. It can bring us a picture, a memory, and that's what makes something in us come alive. So that's what happened to me again and again, reading Danish literature in the original, reading the Danish classics and big-time writers. And I could see that there's obviously, when the language barrier, those works are not going to be read by most English readers unless somebody like me comes in and says, this has to get out of Denmark, because it's just necessary for good literature to be read all over the world. So I've been fortunate enough to have the chance to do that for quite a few years. And in engaging with a variety, a dozen different Danish writers, the skill of the translator is to not make them sound like me, but to make my writing sound like them. And so I need to embody the voice and the emotional quality of their writing, right? So that is what I also try to do in my own writing, that I can embody myself. And how can I bring out the emotional quality in my own work so that it resonates with the reader? So through both the act of translating almost 20 books and writing, 10 books of poetry, I have distilled kind of like a toolbox, a checklist, concrete things that any writer can do to look at their work with a little bit more objectivity and see what do I need to do here to make it readable. When you're looking at the right angle. When you're looking at the right angle. When you're looking at the right angle. When you're looking at the right angle.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Real Pickles, a worker-owned cooperative in Greenfield, producing organic fermented vegetables sourced from Northeast farms. More information at realpickles.com.
We're speaking with two of the members of the Straw Dog Writers Guild, Michael Favala Goldman and Morgan Sheehan. Michael, it appears that you have a poem at the ready. Is it true?
You never know when you need a poem.
Everybody needs poetry
So
on the daily, even if they don't know it.
So I'd be happy to read this. Here's a poem that has a writing flavor to it from We Are More Than Just This, which is a collection of mine from last year. So I ask you, all this for what? Words are our downfall. Even the word downfall will get you only so far. Far is a concept within a system, within a culture, and you are trapped there against your will, as long as you are subjugated by words. And who isn't? However I point to what is beyond, you can only see my finger, which is all I have to point with. Each of these words a finger, none of them a word for what I mean. No words that liberate us from the words themselves.
Snap when the poets read.
Thank you.
Michael Favala Goldman. Morgan, you're a playwright. What are you working on right now?
Not playwriting at all. I have a trilogy that I'm working on that's young adult, but right now I'm working on an autobiographical piece about my time in the Peace Corps. Mm-hmm. And it reads a little bit like absurdist comedy, but it's just the reality of what it was like to be there.
Oh, wow. And that was in Georgia, you said?
Yeah, the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. I was there during 2003 to 2004 during the Rose Revolution, which was a bloodless revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I bet you have an interesting take on everything that's going on right there now. That may be beyond our purview when we're talking about a writers' conference, but maybe not. I mean, we mentioned in the intro that this is a thorny time for people in general, and writers have an important place in that, and poets have an important place in that, and comedians have an important place in that, as we've seen historically. What do you feel your role is in the midst of the tumult that we're experiencing in the nation right now as a writer? Morgan?
So I come at it from a couple of different angles. In Soviet Russia, people were so careful with their language, but that didn't mean that authors and poets and artists didn't have any power. They had sort of extreme power to use their words carefully to get their message across. It was like a secret language that they were using. Mm-hmm. And you could see that that language was powerful in terms of how those artists were persecuted. And I think we see some echoes of that right now. I mean, sort of a silly example of it is an attack on comedians.
Yeah.
But when someone is being attacked by someone who's much more powerful, you know that the person who's being attacked has power. And then I also take a look at it from another perspective. So I teach English as a second language at HCC. These are folks who are so hopeful, they have a goal, they're working toward that goal, very forward-looking. And they are learning English because they know that owning the language of the culture in which they live is powerful, and it gives them a kind of power that they don't have without that. So our words are far more powerful and have far more weight as long as we're willing to use them.
Michael, you have a different perspective from a different nation, and we were talking sort of in the lobby about what you experience when you're in Denmark versus what you experience here in the United States.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's two different questions. I mean, as far as like what Straw Dog does for me and what I try and do for writers, where I serve as a mentor, it's all about validating the creativity in the individual, creating a sense of fellowship, that we can share ideas, that we can share advice, that we can share contacts, and that we can feel that we're not alone in delving this mystery of where creativity comes from and what it can do in the community. It takes it takes a village to write a poem sometimes. And Straw Dog is a kind of a crucible where people can come together and see that at work. As far as what literature does in the community as a society, I don't know that I can even speak to that. I mean, as a longtime reader of Danish literature, I do feel a deep sense of humanity in the canon of Danish literature that, at least in the United States, I feel is more diffuse. I mean, we are all over the place. It's a lot more wild over here. Uh-huh. And to find work that is really humanity centered and justice centered and relaxed and free and less stressed, that's going to be harder to find, because as a country, we are more stressed and we are more on edge, and our writing reflects that.
Kind of along those lines, like this conference is one day happening on October 18th. But how is this conference different from what Straw Dogs offers throughout the year? Because it's not as if this is the only time that the Guild is active.
Probably scale. So what do we have now? I think it's 19 workshops and a couple panels. Oh, no, it's more than that. And we'll have maybe 200 people there. So you can take 4 different writing workshops. You can go to an open mic. You can sit at a table of 20 of your peers and talk with them from all over the valley. And then another event that we might have would be one of our craft workshops, which would be one group of people, still that great sense of community, but the scale is really different.
So through the program committee, we schedule about 1 craft workshop a month during the year, and it really varies for all different kinds of genres. The next one coming up at the end of this month, I believe it's October 29th with Dina Friedman, is breaking through the barrier of being able to submit your work to put it out in public. We also run a series called Voices for Resistance, which centers on writers that are really challenging the status quo. So that's been a series we've been running for quite a few years as well.
I'm assuming that this conference has writers of all varying degrees of where they are in their professional life or their desire to be writers, but it's open to anyone no matter where they are on that spectrum?
Yeah, as long as they're interested, they should come.
And there are still spots available? Is that true?
There are still spots available. There's still scholarships available.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, like I saw that this conference is participating in Card to Culture,
yes,
which I think is really cool. That program is fantastic and not enough people know about it.
What is that program again?
Card to Culture, where if you happen to be on SNAP or EBT, there are certain cultural events that you get either reduced tickets to or free tickets to that you can participate in because the state of Massachusetts has recognized that culture is a part of your general health. And being able to participate and see works of art, important pieces of theater, is important to your well-being. And likewise, to your possible personal development might be coming and finding out how to write. It is really cool that this particular conference is participating in that program.
We started the Card to Culture program this year, and it was really that we found out about it. It aligns so much with how the organization runs. One of the goals of the organization is to reduce or eliminate that economic barrier to access. You might not know that there are a lot of writers who aren't raking in the billion-dollar book deals.
It's most of us. You do it for the love.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get lucky.
So we started it so it could be really clear that you can join the Writers Guild without that barrier to access. You can be part of the group. And it made so much sense for us to also be able to provide that for the conference. It's a really valuable experience, and it shouldn't be exclusive to only folks who have the money for it.
One of the other workshops that's being offered is one on self-publishing,
yes,
which I think is not necessarily a hot topic, but a really interesting movement in both publishing and literature, and kind of especially in the Valley. We've had folks on the show who have definitely self-published their books. This is an entirely new venture. Well, not entirely new venture, but definitely one that I think more people are realizing they have access to. Can you talk about that being a part of this particular conference?
Yeah, so there are 2 workshops that fill that role a little bit. One is about self-promotion, marketing from the first word that you write. Writers are terrible at self-promotion. And then the other is this self-publishing workshop. And there's a whole variety of ways. There's the traditional way you get an agent, you get a publishing contract. There's hybrid publishing where you're sort of working together. And there's also completely self-publishing. And it's not just self-publishing through Amazon, but there are small presses that you can go to, some that are great and some that are not. So it's not without some problems. So just to learn a little bit about it, to see if it's for you, to see if you're the kind of person who can promote your own work, I think it opens the door to more people to get more work out.
Morgan Sheehan, who is a writer, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, which we're going to talk to a little bit off the air, a published poet and produced playwright and part of the Straw Dog Writers Guild, as well as Michael Favela Goldman, who is an award-winning poet and jazz clarinetist and translator of Danish literature, and another member of the Straw Dog Writers Guild. The Straw Dogs Right Angles Conference is happening on October 18th at Greenfield Community College, and find out more info at rightanglesconference.com. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering in-person and online graduate programs in public policy and data analytics. Admissions now open at umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping Western Mass families achieve greater energy independence through solar power, battery systems, and air source heat pumps. Northeast-solar.com.
Infinity!
Mathematics is not a collection of results. It's a process. It's a way of thinking about the problems. Painting with ideas.
Mathematics is the language of the universe.
Since 1960, I've been doing summer math programs. Every summer, but 2.
He somehow gathered around him all of these young mathematical faculty and young students, like a Pied Piper of mathematics.
Kelly thinks that math is beautiful, and it's hard to be one of his students without coming away with the same impression.
The truth in the project of finding truth.
Hunting Yellow Pigs is a feel-good documentary about math, and specifically the Hampshire College Summer Studies in Mathematics program, or HCSSIM, that has perhaps had a greater impact on American mathematics than any single mathematician, and is considered a paragon of questing for knowledge.
The program was founded by the late Professor David Kelly, who sadly just passed away this May. It's a program that has existed for over 5 decades and is still ongoing for mathematically motivated high schoolers.
There will be a screening of Hunting Yellow Pigs at Hampshire on Saturday, October 18th at 8 in the Bill Brand Screening Room, Jerome Liebling Building, and we are joined by director and executive producer of Hunting Yellow Pigs, John Roberts, executive producer Ming-Yi Huang, and cinematography director and editor of the documentary, Rebecca Rideout. Thank you so much for coming in. This documentary about math, which I kind of hate, is wonderful.
On the other hand, I love math. I do math adjacency because I do music. But seeing this, one of the things that I noticed, the title Hunting Yellow Pigs refers to like this graphic on a book. And I had that book. My dad and his brothers had that particular calculus book. And I remember reading it the year that I kind of had to teach myself math.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
Tell us about the name Hunting Yellow Pigs. Director John Roberts?
It has different meanings for different people. This program, for me, it's been a mystery. It still remains to some extent a mystery why it was so successful, why it was so impactful. It's kind of like a quest, at least for me, and I think for many who were so affected and impacted by this program, as to what was the magic there. I think that's part of the hunting process.
But the yellow pig is an icon from a math book?
It's unclear.
You have to watch the film and to figure it out yourself if you can.
Yeah.
Yes, there are many clues we planted in the feature-length film, and hopefully you'll find some clues.
There are other math mysteries in this too, including surrounding the number 17. But the most wonderful mystery of it all is the main character, David Kelly, who, as we mentioned, passed away earlier this year. It was powerful to watch him in action, and I felt very emotionally moved and wish that I got to meet him myself in person. But how many of you did get to know and work with David Kelly? Did you all three?
Yes.
We all did, yes.
Outside of this film, like, what were your interactions with Professor Kelly?
Let's start with you, Ming-Yi Huang.
I have to say, it's been 40 years in the making that I've known John. And ever since I've known him, he's been talking about Kelly.
Mm-hmm. And they all call him Kelly.
Yes.
Not David Kelly.
So he has been such a magical mystery person to me. And I finally got to meet him in 2017. 17.
Which is the magic number of the whole movie.
Yes, I got to visit his house, so it's just filled with puzzles and fun things. And he's such a warm, loving person. He's just full of love of mathematics, but also people around him. Now I know why John has been talking about him for 40 years.
Rebecca, how did you get to know Kelly, as we'll call him?
Yes. Well, Ming-Yi and John were looking for someone in the area to help work on the project. When they described this individual to me and the math program, I was very excited to meet him, and none of it disappointed me. He's such a fun, quirky individual that has just an incredible dedication to this project for over 52 years. Going into his home, meeting his dog, his husband Alan, the community overall of HCSSAM welcomed me in a way that I've never had a project welcome me, and I still have friends from it to this day.
But John, I guess this relationship and perhaps this whole documentary, Hunting Yellow Pigs, starts with you. Tell us your relationship to Kelly.
Well, it goes back 1976, so that's, 49 years, something like that. From an academic perspective, he had this charisma and this love of the students and empathy for the students, which I think is central to allowing students to become more curious, better mathematicians, and better human beings in general. And he really transformed many people's lives who experienced his pedagogical style, his personality at the program.
And you were part of that program in the summer. Yeah. How old were you then?
I was 15 years old.
And that's what's great, too, because there's these they're teenagers, they're almost college age, but they're not quite college age. And they have this very long, extensive, immersive mathematical experience at this incredibly interesting campus with an incredibly interesting style of teaching, and perhaps no one more interesting than this man, David Kelly. He comes across as sort of like a lovable mad scientist type, which I love, but talk about his method of teaching math and how it influences so many of the people that you talk to in the movie who are now the, Ivy League professors, executive producers on The Simpsons. Like, his work and his influences secretly worked into Futurama and things like that you find out in this documentary. What was it about his style? I guess you, John, who you learned that way when you were 15 years old, that awakens the mind to math.
Well, I kind of liked math a little. I thought I was good at it. People told me I was kind of good at it, and I thought I'd apply to this program. But this program and Kelly's pedagogical style was just completely different. It empowers the student. It makes the student in control of their own learning. Kelly takes you on a journey, and it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. Too much in education is about, we've got to make sure that you learn this thing, that thing, the other thing, and there's this curriculum. But there's this process of discovery where you go on a journey to try to discover something new. The journey itself can be interesting. It can be beautiful. Imagine, like, if you're on a family trip to Paris, your parents take you when you're a kid, if you're lucky enough to get to go to Paris when you're a kid. But, your parents are kind of in control of the itinerary, and, they've got a bucket list. We're going to this destination, we're going to see the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre Museum, and all these things. You have to check them off. But in Kelly's math class, it's like he says, okay, let's go to Paris. But if the kids say, well, what about this little side alley here? Let's do a detour and explore a less traveled neighborhood, for example. Kelly says, yeah, let's go there. And let's explore that. And we might find something beautiful there. It's very much in the spirit of Hampshire College also to teach this way, that the student is totally in control of their own learning, and they drive the curriculum ultimately.
We're speaking with director and executive producer John Roberts, as well as executive producer Ming-Yi Huang and cinematography director Rebecca Rideout about the movie Hunting Yellow Pigs that talks about the late Professor David Kelly from Hampshire College. There will be a screening of this at Hampshire College on Saturday, October 18th.
For the two people who weren't actually a part of this program, what did you see for the students in filming when they moved outside? because an important part of this program is going outside and seeing how some of this maybe applies, how some of that might change the way you might think.
Rebecca Rideout?
We were able to interview over 70 alum and students, I believe, all around the country, as well as at the program during the summer when we were filming. What I found was one of the most strongest parts of the film is looking at how people have brought their learning from this program out into the rest of the world. Dozens and dozens of educators, whether it's professors, high school teachers, after-school math program coordinators, they're bringing this kind of mathematics education out into the rest of the world and changing the way their students see mathematics. But also there's so many different fields that they've brought it to. So of course, many professors, geneticists, biologists, but also comedians, authors, you name it. They've brought these types and tenets from the program into other fields and have seen great success.
What I found most impactful is really in young student education. So you have someone like Dan Finkel, Math for Love. His whole mission is about bringing younger kids to love the love of math. And he used exactly what he learned at Hampshire program. And just think of the impact, a few kids, millions of adults later on. We have an author, Kathy O'Neill, for example. What's the book she said?
Weapons of Math Destruction?
She's so passionate about that everyone should be aware, mathematical literate, so you're not being controlled blindly by algorithm that's everywhere in your day-to-day life. That's the most impactful thing I see. It's not about math, but it's about how they want to influence other people, make other people's lives better.
We're talking about David Kelly's pedagogy at the Hampshire College Summer Studies in Mathematics program at Hampshire College and the new documentary Hunting Yellow Pigs, which you can see at Hampshire College on Saturday, October 18th. We're talking with the filmmakers. There is, as we've alluded to, a lot of love of the number 17. Maybe we won't reveal why, but it does get revealed in the documentary why David Kelly loved this number so much. But there is another thing that people who live in the area might have noticed at one point or another, where the speed limit signs around Hampshire College in his honor were changed to 17 miles per hour. When did that happen? Do you know?
2020s?
So it was not just because he had passed away.
2017, missed opportunity.
I know.
I
He retired.
think when he retired.
Right.
Yeah.
Retired from Hampshire, but not the Hampshire College Summer Studies in Mathematics.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that his legacy will live on with this program. Do we know about what the future of this HCSSIM program will be?
Yes, we do. It will continue. It's been continuing. There's a new director, Paul Phillips, and he's been doing this program as senior staff alongside Kelly since 2013. So he's very much involved and loves the culture and will continue the culture. There's a foundation that's been established recently. It's called the YP Math Foundation. I don't know what YP might stand for. No, but the YP Math Foundation is now running this program, and right now it's being run at Hampshire College and will continue there for the foreseeable future. The foundation is there to have the financial resources to make sure it keeps going and Kelly's legacy lives on.
The film does also read like a great ad to join this program. My 12-year-old, who says he loves math, watched it, and I was like, if you love this documentary, maybe we'll talk about having you take the quote-unquote interesting test that you have to take to get into the program, which is fascinating enough.
I kind of wanted to take the interesting test.
I would like to at least see the interesting test. I am terrible, as I mentioned, at math, but it did, for a moment, make me think maybe even I could love math because of the love and energy that Professor David Kelly brought to this. I know Rebecca Rideout is a filmmaker. We've worked together in the past. Are you two both new filmmakers because of this? And if so, what do you do apart from new filmmaker life, and does math play into it? Mingyi Huang?
I actually went to UMass at Amherst. The Department of Mathematics.
Okay.
And I major in mathematical statistics. But what I've done in my career has nothing to do with math, really. My day job's actually I'm running a biotech startup.
Wow.
Yes. Which is another cool story, but that's for another time.
And you're based in New York and came here to Springfield to talk with us, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, we love to, as in Hampshire spirit, we love to meet people in person.
Yeah. I love that. Yes. Well, what about you, John? You're a director and executive producer, but what is your daily life?
Daily life is I'm a partner at a company that finances renewable energy projects, like mostly solar farms. I use math a lot, and there's like a lot of misconception as to what math really is, and that's explored in the film too. We are new filmmakers. This is our first film, and we didn't know what to do. So luckily, Hampshire College has a great film department, and we contacted Professor Abraham Ravitt there, and he put us in touch with Larry Hott and ultimately with Rebecca Rideout. And Rebecca's just been amazing. So we're very thankful. It's very much a Valley kind of thing that helped us become first-time filmmakers here.
So. A lot of the cameramen, the soundmen are actually local. Yes.
Yeah, Hampshire has a great program. If only there was a famous documentary filmmaker who had ever gone there.
One of the cool things in this documentary is you've got this classroom at HCSSM, and one of the first things that they're asked is to prove division. And it's a thing that they've made assumptions about for their entire careers. Seeing that moment, what did that allow you to question about the things that you're already assuming in your lives as well?
The notion being that division may not exist. You must prove that division exists.
Yeah, there are many things that we take for granted. And, things like multiplying, dividing, also counting, something as simple as counting. It's even more basic. And what does it mean? We as mathematicians, and we're all mathematicians, I should say. One of the things you can do is you could learn a lot by thinking very deeply about something that seems obvious. What does it mean to divide? And you have to think, well, if I take 17 and I want to divide it by 5, well, I have to figure out how many times does the 5 go in, and is there a remainder? And we have to be very rigorous about what we mean. Mathematics is a language, and if we define very carefully what we mean by certain words like division or multiplication or counting, or what does it mean that there are 17 yellow pigs over there in that corner? We've got these objects in our head called numbers. In order to count, what we're doing, if you think deeply about it enough, we're assigning one of these objects in our head to the things that we're counting. And there are certain rules that we have to obey. That sounds like so primitive, so who cares? Like, why are we diving so deeply about something so simple? And the answer comes when you start to discover something, we'll try to discover something new about, for example, infinity. Like, what is infinity? How can we describe infinity? And a lot of the way to understand infinity comes from first understanding something very simple, like counting just a few yellow pigs in the corner.
There aren't math people and creative people. It turns out everyone can be capable of everything. So math isn't just for a certain type of person that likes math. You can be good at math, and I think I've known both of you for years. You might not think of me as a math person, but I suddenly find it thrilling. All of the connections between everything are mystical and I would say addictive.
Yeah, it's like when I read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I was like, I can merge these two things in my brain. And this movie helped me do that a little bit more about how everything is math. If only I got to meet the late Professor David Kelly from Hampshire College, who just comes across as a delightful human being in this documentary, Hunting Yellow Pigs, which you can see Saturday, October 18th at Hampshire College in the Bill Brand Screening Room at the Jerome Liebling Building.
Thanks for doubling down on the idea that it is okay to be wrong. In fact, sometimes you need to be wrong so that later on you can be less wrong.
Boldly going wrong is another wonderful thing that comes out. If people can't make it to this screening on Saturday the 18th, where will this movie live in the future?
We have a website, huntingyellowpigs.com, and that's where you can get all the information on the latest screening venues.
Director and executive producer John Roberts, executive producer Ming-Hee Huang, and cinematography director and editor of the documentary, Rebecca Rideout, all behind the movie Hunting Yellow Pigs. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
much.
having us.
For having us.
Oh, our pleasure.